everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at two books by the artist Joe Sparrow. This one, Cuckoo, just came out. When I ordered this from Shortbox Comics, I went ahead and grabbed Homunculus as well because the art on both look really amazing. So Homunculus was Joe Sparrow's first book. Oh, take a look at this first and then we'll take a look at Cuckoo. I believe this is his debut book. And this, as you can see from the cover, this is the main character here, an AI that's basically in a box, and here you can see the AI's creator plugging it in, and then there's a formal conceit throughout the rest of the book that's really compelling, that you're always looking from the eye of the AI, so you have this stable viewpoint throughout, and it's just really well drawn book, really smartly written, really well designed. You get a sense of like how smartly written and how researched it is here when she's saying, darn it, the BRCA module doesn't seem to be booting. She's trying to talk to the AI and it's not responding, and then she says the BRCA module doesn't seem to be booting. I'm going to reboot it. And the BRCA's area in the brain is, or BRCA's area in the brain is one of the areas of the brain that really has to do with speech, and especially I think the motor functions of speech, if I remember correct. So that's really smart. It's like those little details like that make it, like, you could have just said the voice module or something like that, but that shows an extra layer of research that I really appreciate. Here you see, you just kind of have this woman like actually turning the camera like she's taking a selfie with it, and is showing the AI itself like starting to get itself aware, and is basically in this first sequence of the book just doing some training the AI, and you get a sense that there's some problems going on in the world. I don't want to give away too much. She's also having problems potentially with funding, so the AI is a little worried it's going to get turned off. And you pretty much keep that color palette throughout that training sequence all the way. I also, something else that I think is really interesting is that the background's always kind of subdued. It's like the AI has, I think this is just a really smart, intentional choice. I'm assuming this is intentional on Sparrow's part, is that the background's always like, it's known, and so the AI is not paying much attention to it. And then the things that are interesting are in color. They're like foregrounded. So it's an interesting way to show like negative and positive space, or foreground and ground and figure. You know, this is the ground that's being ignored because it's stable. The AI knows what's there and it doesn't have to pay attention to it anymore. That's obviously, like, from the get-go, though. I think it would have been interesting if it would have been colorized for a couple panels. But even here, where it's like being birthed, you know, you're seeing like the person's the important thing and everything else is just there. You also get in the background here, it tells you the date and the time. So there's like this constant time tracking going on in there. And you get that color palette, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get a color palette change and some really interesting rhythms throughout. Like there's a light blinking outside that's every other panel, and then just having the door open. These kind of little rhythms with color are really beautiful and really well done. Then it's pretty obvious by the cover. I don't think I'm giving too much away, but something happens and you get the AI like kind of just out in nature now as the world falls apart and decays, and the color throughout here is just really astonishing use of color, and again kind of like a rhythm and flow to the colors. It's really beautiful. And so I'm not going to give away the rest of the book. I think these are definitely books that people should go buy and experience, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but the art's gorgeous and just really thoughtful and intelligent. And I was noticing that I was going, especially on the outdoor sequence there, and then it was cool to see in the back Joe Sparrow have some like sketches here, some color sketches, and it's talking about how important the color was and the rhythm of the color, especially in that sequence. So to be able to see like this God's eye view of the rhythm, even though we wouldn't see the pages spread out like that, but to see that with like from the remove is really intelligent. And the more and more I see people working like that, the more I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I need to look at my stuff with that God's eye view, because there's like a sense of a totality of a book that I've been ignoring until the last year or so. So to see this kind of thing is really inspiring. So really smart book, absolutely love it. It looks like it was nominated for Best Graphic Album in 2019 when it came out for the Eisners. So that's definitely well deserved. It's, I don't know what won that year, but that that was definitely should have been a contender. And then Cuckoo is really, I mean, Joe Sparrow at full power as an artist. I mean, already in Homunculus full power, but now just really, really showing off. I'm trying to be a little bit more careful about the details of the story here, but I do got to give a general overview. So this starts out with this opening sequence and just absolutely gorgeous. Like the printing in this one's really nice. The way the ink sits on the paper, the way this black fades, and there's like the diffusion dither down there to get the gradient. It just all prints really well. Joe Sparrow's obviously just an amazing colorist. Like you look at that image there, it's just, it's so good. And then the little bit of lighting on the house there, everything about this is just beautifully, beautifully done. So what happens is there's like this meteor shower, and the main character, Dorothy, this is like Dorothy younger, comes outside, and the meteor here has like a alien diamond crystal creature, and it zaps her. And you can see just how amazing the art is here. Really fun style, really great use of color. And you get some images like this that are just visually really stunning, really imaginative, a lot of fun with shape and geometry, really psychedelic. One of my only complaints is that this book is almost too well bound, and it was like, I was like making me work to keep it open while I was reading it. So production's really great, but it was just like actually kind of exhausting to my hands to like looking at the book, and especially on images like this where you get the gutter loss, it's a bit of a bummer. But other than that, this is a really, really well produced book. So then you jump 5 years later to Dorothy is now 19, and her parents are now divorced. You see that in the early sequence that they're arguing, but the parents are now divorced. She's mostly living with mom, and she's going to art school to be a student. That was my only other complaint with this book is like, I don't know. I know they say write what you know, but I feel like the main characters of too many comics are also artists or writers themselves. And there not any really compelling reason I could see in the story why this character needed to be an artist. I just feel like Joe Sparrow's probably writing from experience with Dorothy a bit. And, I just, it would be interesting if she was like a geology student or something else. There's other things that could relate to what goes on in the story. Both of her parents are mathematicians, things like that. So I just think we could have skipped over the art thing. Like, it's just too many main characters. There's not that many artists in the world relative to how many main characters in comics these days are artists, I think. So that was my only other problem with the book. Other than that, it's amazing. Here, Dorothy is having a panic attack. And I really like the visual representation of how intense things can get, having had many panic attacks myself. So just going to art school, having problems there, not really feeling fulfilled. Mom's not too happy with that path, being an accountant. And so it's just like general life stress and general anxiety about who she is, like 19 years old, off in school, trying to figure oneself out. And that's, I think, the core theme of the book is really feeling like an outsider in the world. And that's where, like the art kid who's the outsider, like just seems to fit into that mold. So it feels a bit like Joe Sparrow probably dealing with those own, memories of that age himself. Then there's a sequence in the book, and again, trying to keep it, like, give a flow of the book without too much spoilers. But Dorothy here starts finding out that she has like telekinetic powers, but also some telepathic powers, and is communicating with another character who you wind up meeting as Ellie. And they have here this really cool representation of their like psychic connection. And this is Ellie, and they become really good friends. And there's a hint maybe that they're even going to be lovers. So that's like playing into the trying to figure yourself out at a young age. What is your sexuality? What are your interests? And especially when you feel like such an outsider and you make a connection with someone who gets you, that first person who really gets you. And I think that's what this page is representing so well, is just that kind of cosmic, overwhelming sense of like someone gets me, and how the person kind of takes on this iconic totemic nature there is really well done. And from there, I don't want to give away much of the story, but I want to jump to the end a little bit, because there's some really stunning sequences here, just well-designed sequences. When you get to like the kind of culmination, the apex of everything that's going on, you just get these wild psychedelic, like diamond shaped, interconnected web of the universe type of compositions here that are just really, really powerful and imaginative, really cool. They make me want to go draw, you know, that kind of thing. So everything in this book in terms of the art just absolutely grabs me, makes me want to quit recording the video right now and go draw and work and get better, especially get better with color and shape and those kinds of things. And yeah, really impressive work. I don't know if this is done in Illustrator or if this is done in Photoshop. It looks like vector graphics almost because the line work is so clean. That's a skill that I would like to get for myself. I'd like to get more fluid with Illustrator, and looking at something like this where I think it's probably done with Illustrator, like ramps that up even more. So really inspiring book. One little quibble with the, you know, the no need for it to be an artist, and one little quibble with, like, you know, the book is just like really a task to hold open, which is unfortunate on some of the big images. But other than that, I could not recommend this book enough, and I could not recommend Homunculus enough. Joe Sparrow is definitely someone that should have a major impact on the industry, I hope, and hopefully someone that will be getting a lot of work from over the years. Hopefully this Joe Sparrow is someone who's prolific and produces, you know, continues to produce and sells enough that we can continue to get more Joe Sparrow work, because I'm a huge fan. So go out and get these, make sure that we get more Joe Sparrow work. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel, there's two ways to make sure you keep getting more from us. One of them is to support us through Patreon. We have two different tiers of engagement over there. The first one is just early access to the videos. The second one is access to exclusive content like our Pranay Day ongoing AI webcomic user interaction kind of comic experiment, as well as early kind of previews of the stuff that Sean and I are working on. Any of the money we get from that just helps us buy the books that we review. So we try and put that back into other creators' pockets and keep exposing you to interesting new work. So we really appreciate that support. And if you want to support Living the Line, the best thing to do is support Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of the projects that Sean's putting out. Centralia is an awesome, gorgeous comic by rising Dutch star Miel van de Peet. This is his first work. It's a really great sci-fi story. There's a world in the future where the sun has gotten so hot that people can't be on the ground, so they have to run around. There's a lot of conceits that go with that. You know, what is the world that looks like? And I think you can see by the art that Sean's description of this book as like a Moebius for young adults, a YA Moebius, is a really great description of this really gorgeous and like wild, wacky, fun book. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.